Hi, Vibha.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Great. Yeah, great is a great word, but good to see you. Fantastic.
Yeah, good to see you too. It's been
It
a long
was,
time.
yeah, I was just, yeah, a little bit in the past. I was looking at all the nice pictures that we made together in your beautiful exhibition at the Kunstmuseum Wolfsburg. And it
Yeah.
was really great. And then you visited the gallery afterwards. So it was a great time. It was fantastic.
Yeah. It was
Yeah,
really great show, actually.
yeah,
Yeah, and it was great
absolutely.
to meet you there. And Uta has created such a beautiful show. So
Yeah,
thanks to
yeah, yeah.
her.
Yeah, thanks
she
to her.
she introduced us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What time is
Exactly.
it now in New Delhi?
It's 5:30 in the evening.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And yeah, how have you been in this last couple of weeks? Are you all the time in New Delhi or are you a little bit
Yeah,
in?
we are locked down. We were in a curfew zone. So,
Yeah,
nobody could get out. So we are now in the fourth stage of the lockdown.
yeah.
So I think the fifth stage is going to be announced soon because now the cases are really going up. So, there are a lot of cases coming up.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think
yeah,
we are still locked down. I have started going to studio just for a few hours.
yeah,
So the things are open 7 to 7, 7 in the
yeah,
morning to 7 in the evening. So
yeah.
everybody have to come back before 7. So I am not going there for more than 2 hours because it's too hot. And my studio is on the top floor. Right now it's
Okay,
44-degree temperature and my studio is like a furnace. So yeah, no air condition is working there.
okay.
Yeah.
And can you work a little bit from home as well, or are you doing some research, or you
I'm doing a lot of
actually?
research.
Yeah,
In the first part, I think of the lockdown, I couldn't do anything because I came back from US on 27th of Feb, and it was my solo show opening. So I opened my show with Jack Shinman Gallery,
yeah.
and which was shut down in between.
Ah, that's Me
Um,
Too Sen. I just see this Me Too Sen is looking as
oh
well.
yeah, hi, me too. Yeah,
Great. I will show some pictures of the show later.
sure. And
Yeah. And so when was the opening of your show? So it was just before?
it opened on 22nd of February and
Yeah.
it closed down on 10th of March, unfortunately. But I came back, I think, to India on 27th of February. So I had quarantined myself for a week just to that time, everybody was not in panic.
Yeah.
But just week after, everybody was panicked. So,
Yeah.
thankfully, nothing happened, nothing was there.
Yeah.
But in the first period of the lockdown, I was taking it slow and we all were confused. I think everybody was confused. But I think
Yeah.
in that period, I really thought about our unsustainable practices, which I usually think about. But,
That's true,
in that
exactly.
period, yeah,
Yeah.
in that period more. But I couldn't
Yeah.
do much because, the focus was not there. So I won't
Yeah.
deny that I wasn't doing anything for those 21 days, first 21 days. But
Yeah.
after that, I started working and, started to think about new projects where we can bring the communities together rather
Yeah.
only, showing in the art field or art world. There has to be much more, engagement with the people from other communities too. So that's what I was trying to do. But,
Yeah.
it's in between, not
Yeah.
really successful, not really unsuccessful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but we all have to go out now, huh? I think it's very important to do something. You have this project with your husband together where you are engaging with other communities, huh? This is
Yeah, so that's
uh,
called Soul Foundation. It's
yeah,
called Sustainability of Urban Living.
yeah,
We did one project which was the Herbal Garden project, which we
yeah,
started from our own community. So after that I was slowed down because I was busy with my work.
yeah,
So we are having many projects in mind, but we are looking for more people to plug in and so that we can have more community-based project. But
yeah,
it's still slow, very slow, because I think that kind of community project really take time because in the first project when we were doing it together, we realized that it's very difficult to deal with human behaviors. So,
Yeah,
if we have to take a permission for the herb garden also, which is benefit for everybody, there
yeah,
also people have lots of difference of opinion. Who can
yeah,
take the herbs, who cannot take the herbs, how much I can take, how much I cannot take. So, those were the questions we were dealing with. And I was like, my goodness, people are complicated. So, it
yeah,
was that kind of complication we were facing. But otherwise, I think the organization has a lot of projects which we are making as a database or
mm-hmm.
the logbook where we are just registering our project and thinking of doing it in future. And hopefully now it is much more needed because India is a very different country. So, it's very different than the other parts of Europe or the West side because we are still developing. And right now, you really can feel it. It's such an underdeveloped country because right now, I think we are seeing a lot of migrants going back to their hometowns. So, which is devastating for all of us because, the government didn't plan that kind of migration or nobody could thought of in the beginning. But after 1 month, when people wanted to go back, there was
Yeah.
no measure of going back. So, there were no
There were
vehicles
no train,
were
nothing. Yeah,
so, it's kind of devastating to see those people walking back home for
yeah,
1,200 kilometers or so. And, the privilege seems kind of vulgar at the moment. Uh, Thankfully, we are sitting at home. We are having all kind of comfort zones. But those people who are on roads on 44-degree temperature, I think I'm with them and I don't know what to do and how to do something for them. We just can sit at home and donate for them. And I don't know the
yeah,
donations are reaching or not. So I'm just, right now in a phase where we are kind of chaos of thoughts,
yeah. Yeah, but this
that,
is what is happening at the moment, that this coronavirus is showing us all these difficult things that are happening in the world. So the
that's right.
poor people are really poor now, and the rich people are really rich now, and so the differences are
Absolutely.
more and more obvious. And just yesterday, we had on the German television they were shown an Indian girl that was bicycling 1,200 kilometers with her father on the bicycle because she couldn't
Yeah.
go to his hometown. So so
Yeah.
sometimes such stories end up in Germany as well on the television, but
Yeah,
it's
it's
terrible everywhere.
it's painful actually.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
painful to
yeah,
go through all those
absolutely.
things. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, but
But
I was really happy that you wanted to speak with us because for me this exhibition what that Uta did facing India in 2018 was really one of my highlights of seeing exhibitions. It was such
thank
a
you.
great exhibition and such a female power, and your work was so engaged, and from Mitusen and the other artists was really very, very powerful. And I think she got some beautiful magazine critics about it, so it was really
Yeah, yeah.
something. And I would like to show you some pictures that I made that day back in 2018. I
Sure.
think it's really nice to be a little bit in this so, so here we are. So this is the catalog facing India from the Kunstmuseum Wolfsburg. And Uta Rukamp, I just spoke with her, or I was in contact with her yesterday. Uh,
Okay.
she she can't listen today, but she will listen later because it's her mother's birthday.
Okay.
And so she's with her mother, but she's sending her warm regards as well. So here
Thank
are
you.
the female artists in this exhibition facing India. And this was made by Uta Rukamp and Ralf Beil, and this is your picture.
Yeah.
And here is my memory book.
Yeah.
And here's, for example, here you can see a view into the exhibition with your work behind. And ah, a lot
Yeah,
of
that's you.
changes.
That's
That's
you and
Uta,
Uta.
and this is the director from today. So this is really interesting. This is
Okay.
So the new director of the Andreas Beitin, exactly. That's the new director of the museum today.
Okay.
And yeah, and here are different things. What I wanted to show is this. Have a look. All the female artists together with Uta. I think that was such a beautiful,
That's a very
beautiful
beautiful
moment.
picture.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really very nice.
Cheerful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
very
here,
cheerful.
have a look.
Oh my God. Where did I take this?
We
How
took
majesty.
we took this picture
In the
in the
hotel, I
hotel,
think.
in the hotel, exactly.
Oh my God. Send me that. I'll keep it with
Yes,
me.
absolutely. And here's Salim, this fantastic collector, Salim Cook.
Yeah.
And so it's really, really nice. But here, this is Katja. And
Hi,
she
Katya. How
prepared.
are you?
I'm fine. We met when you visited our gallery.
Yes, yes, I
Remember your
briefly
visit?
remember. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, usually I prepare a little introduction of our talk guests, and
Okay.
so today as you are not one of our habitual artists, but a guest, a special guest from far away, I might introduce you to our public and to our
Sure.
collectors and friends of the gallery. So already you started the conversation, but let's go back to some basics. So
Okay.
Vibha Galhotra, she was born in Chandigarh in '78 in India, and she holds a Bachelor of Fine Arts from the Government College of Arts in Chandigarh. I think I
No, that's
mispronounce
okay.
all the names, but and she holds a Master in Fine Arts from Kala Bhavan in Santiniketan. That's
Absolutely
Tamil.
correct.
Okay, great. And she lives in New Delhi since 2006, if I'm well informed.
Yeah.
She's a conceptual artist whose work comprises several media. So there's video, drawing, sculpture, and large-scale installations. And in her sculptural work, she very often uses found or used materials. And one of her trademark materials is the use of gangreus. These are the little metal bells that are strung and tied to the feet of classical Indian dancers. And she often combines these little bells with steel, so a very not historical material. And her artistic practice refers to globalization and urbanization, urban growth, the rapid environmental changes. And her perspective includes not only the global side of all this, culture, society, and geography, but also a very personal point of view because she lives in New Delhi. And this living in such a hyper giant, dense urban environment is also a very personal experience. So we're eager to know more about a bit your everyday life and how is living and how is the art scene in New Delhi. And
Sure.
our talk will be far too short to ask all our questions. And she has shown extensively in India, but also widely internationally, including the Colombo Art Biennale in Sri Lanka, San Jose Museum of Art in the USA, Museum of Contemporary Art in Shanghai, China, Soros Center for Contemporary Art in Kazakhstan, the Gut Gastell in Austria, and Europos Parkas in Lithuania, and the Max Muller Bhavan in India, just to give some examples. And of course, we also mentioned Facing India, the show at the Wolfsburg Kunstmuseum in 2018, featuring 6 artists from India. For the first time in Germany, an exhibition dedicated entirely to Indian female artists. Priska already showed their names in the book, but I can also mention that next to Vibha Galhotra, there was also Bati Kerr and Prajakta Putnis, Rina Saini Kalat, Mitu Sen, and Tijal Shah. And all of these artists, they analyze the Indian society profoundly and how it's marked by patriarchy and facing the reality of their country, but also on a global level. And so maybe I can also mention some awards. There is the Asia Future Art Future, the Asia Art Game Changer Award, and the
That's
Asian
okay.
Cultural Council Fellowship.
Yeah, but this is typical female.
Very prestigious
name the awards.
Rockefeller grant, yeah. Because when I
Yeah.
now mention those, it's a classic. So
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
will be angry and say, why didn't you mention this and that? So
Okay.
it's an
No, no.
impressive,
Thank you for the
No,
beautiful
but
short
introduction.
CV, just a short version.
it's just my female thing, because men always love if you mention all their awards, and
That's
female
right.
artists are always, no, don't do it.
I
So,
think
Yeah, we have to go through
right
that.
now
yeah.
awards don't matter. You know, we
Okay,
are in
thank
such
you.
a.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much for this beautiful
Yeah.
introduction, Katya. And yeah, thank you for inviting me here. It's lovely to talk to you. Yeah.
No, we are
So,
really happy that it's possible to speak to you, and we are really happy that the circumstances are really bad, but through this very great tool of Instagram live talks, it's possible that we communicate. Huh? Otherwise, we wouldn't.
that's
So
right.
it's really a chance, and especially for all the people that are far away. And
Yeah, yeah. I think social media has made it quite easy for
yeah, yeah,
all of us. Otherwise, we
yeah.
would have been banging in the walls, you know, because
Exactly.
if you
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
have, I mean, you are locked down for 56 days now, almost
yeah.
56, 58 days. So I think it's too much. We never have seen such a time, or maybe our parents also have not seen such a time. Other than I think the conflict zones, they might have seen
Yeah.
such a time, but I think we have never seen. So it's something very surreal for all of us. And I think in a way it's really kind of related to my practice, where I think I really can, can ask people for kind of go back to their sustainable practices rather than continuing the unsustainability, because I think from all the powerful leaders, we it's been, I think, 2 decades. The scientists are really warning us for this climate change, and how the temperature is going to rise. But I think none of the governments, which are like capitalist driven, they're wanting to listen to it. So I think now is a great time where we are at halt and you can see the visible change. You need not any scientific data. It's a visible
Yeah.
change in the sky. The birds are coming back, the animals are coming back. So, it's kind of nature is rejuvenating itself. So are we. I think sitting at home, we are rejuvenating, but the imagination is going little slow. So there is a cloud
Absolutely.
on my imagination right now. So I think we all need to reinvent things for our future, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yesterday, I was looking through the book, and then I thought,
Oh, yeah.
wow, I saw it. So you were already, speaking
Yeah.
about masks 2 years
Yes.
ago. Please tell us a little bit about this project, because I think that is
So
so
I actually did,
outstanding.
yeah, I did this project in 2008.
Yeah,
And, in those days, it's a kind of satirical thing I used to do, on the whole urban utopia thing. So,
yeah,
everybody wants to go urban. There was massive construction happening. All the old buildings were changing. So, architecture was changing
yeah,
very heavily, and then a lot of new industries were coming in. Post 2005, there was this great acceleration of the development, so-called development in Delhi or
yeah,
other parts of the country. So it was changing very, very fast, that we were not able to cope up with cope up with the pace.
yeah,
So in those days, the conversation was happening that 2020, by 2020 is going to be a doomsday. So
yeah,
it was like funny that who said this doomsday is coming. So 12, 12, 12 was the day for doomsday. So I was like, it's very satirical, on the living humans or our times. So I started studying and researching, and doing the research. There was this prediction came from Nostradamus. I don't know how it appeared on Google, but Nostradamus is somebody repredicted it, that Nostradamus is trying to say that people are going to have pig mouths.
yeah,
Um, so I was like, Big mouth, that doesn't, fit very well. So I said, okay, let me predict something from my own. And that's how it started, with the kind of a fun thing. But there is a lot of meaning, that how we can convey our thoughts to people. So, how you can give such a kind of future situation to people. So, I did this performative photographic stage photographs, where I went to different location, asked people to wear the mask, because I thought mask might be the thing which might be coming in the future, because the pollution was heavy by 2008 also in India. So,
Yeah.
and I'm very sensitive to smell, so I always cover my face. So, that's kind of thought coming from there. And I remembered the times of, the Second World War, where these Russian masks, the Soviet masks, were in many pictures. So, I was like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
okay, let's do the reenactment, because, it's the water and air is going to be the next war situation. Because I think for me, war decodes itself into water, air, and ration. So, if you see that these are the three things which we are gonna kind of fighting for in the future, or we are already fighting right now. So this was kind of my futuristic work.
Yeah.
It's called Negotiated Necessities, that we'll be negotiating with these necessities. And thank you for pointing that out. I think a lot of people must have forgotten this work.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's very, very important work
Of
in my
course, you
practice.
see now with this
Yeah,
in this actual situation, you see really,
yeah,
gosh,
yeah,
well.
yeah,
But this is
yeah.
what we always say. We always have this idea that artists are so visionary, so they are maybe bringing up their feeling, maybe something, and then they bring it in their work, and maybe they even themselves they don't understand why they are doing something, but then in the future it turns out that this is something what was already there. So I think this is
That's right.
what artists have, this really very high sensitive approach to the world, and they show us a little bit the world in another way.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I feel that there are certain kind of intuitions which we all
exactly.
have, but
Yeah,
I think the logical thinking never let it come in front. But I
yeah.
think being in art, it's kind of privilege for me that I can experiment with my intuition, and can also mix it with my research work. I think after this work only I started doing a lot of research from the scientists and other researcher who were working on climate change. And because from I think in 2000, the Copenhagen summit has highlighted a lot of things during the Earth Summit. So from there, I started doing a lot of research, more and more research on the climate change. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then there is one very important thing is water. So you are working a lot on the river.
yeah, yeah. That's my
So this is the river in New Delhi, right?
yes. This is Yamuna
Yes.
River, which is one of the largest river in the country, and also considered very holy, because I think we in Hindu dharma, everybody consider rivers as holy and the mothers of they consider that rivers are the mothers. So
So and this is a work that works together that has to do with the river as well, with the pollution in the river.
yeah,
Right? Can
yeah,
you
yeah. So
explain this a little
this
bit? Yeah.
This is kind of part of the film. So, there was this film I made in 2015. It's called
Yeah.
Manthan. Manthan was basically looking at the condition of the river, or the dying river, I'll say. So, the river, when it crosses Delhi, it's just 1 or 2% of the water which is being given to the state. So, there you see the state politics also happening, that how the upstream and downstream politics is being played, and very less of the water is being given to the city and then diverted to the different state. But once the river enters, whatever the clean water is there, it is mixed with the sewage of the city. So it's the industrial and the residential effluent which actually mixes it with, and it becomes a sewer. So it's worse than a cesspool, I'll say, because you can't stand next to the river more than 10 minutes. So it's kind of devastating state to see this river, because when you see that people are doing their holy ceremonies there, they are doing their ancestor puja, and so you just stand in this theater of absurd, because one side it's very dirty and it doesn't need any logic or anything. It's clearly very dirty, but
Yeah,
you can't play with people's belief system because they are going and taking a holy dip in that
yeah,
cesspool. Actually, it's a cesspool, and they
yeah,
don't even realize that it's mixed with the sewer of the river, of the city. But they think they have such a strong belief system. So for me, it becomes very absurd and very surreal that one side you are seeing people believing that this is a river and they have to go for a holy dip, and a person like me standing there documenting it, thinking that, oh my God, these people are going to get some kind of skin disease if they take a bath in there. So
yeah,
it's that how the belief and the reality leaves you in some in between space, which is very hard to explain. So, I mean, I grew up in a very modern way of, living, or the schooling, or the college, or the study. But then there is another side, which is a traditional and cultural side. So, how you deal with, how you navigate between those two. So
yeah,
that's very interesting for me to look into it, because I think for Indians, we start anything and everything, especially the Hindu Dharma people, they start everything by cleaning, the space with water, because water is one of the pious element.
yeah,
But whereas I'm seeing the condition of the river, it's completely dirty, and it's kind of brought to that condition by human. So that's why where I made that film Manthan, where I took the episode of Vishnu Purana as my base. The Vishnu Purana, in the Vishnu Purana, there is a story where gods and demons, they are first time and the last time they came together to churn the sea to find the life nectar out of the sea. So, there is a whole episode of demons one side and gods one side,
yeah,
churning the sea on a turtle's back. So that's very amazing story, and from childhood I was very fascinated with that story. So I thought I'll contemporize that story and I'll borrow the title from there, and I will churn the river of my present. So I churned the river with the help of the four people who were acting in the film, and
yeah,
they take the shroud to the river first, and they put the shroud on the river, which is almost a dead river, treating
yeah,
river as a human being, and then they start doing the churning, and while they are churning the fabric, the fabric which is white, it turns into black. So that's the fabric you see in that sculpture. So it's from the performance, so the sculpture is from the performance itself. Yeah, so these are some of the images, yeah, you see.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's important to see this a beautiful video, and here
yeah,
this was a work that I saw in the Kunstmuseum Wolfsburg in a black room, and it was so beautiful and so impressive. And then you
yeah.
got aware about the story behind. So this is something. So, but let me show you something. So this is a photograph that I made as well in Wolfsburg. Oh, the sun is coming, so I can't see it really. This is your
Yeah.
work as well, right?
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. So here you have, it's like oil, or is this water?
Yeah,
Or
so
yeah.
this is a burnt fossil fuel. So I made this exhibition, which was in Delhi, Insanity in the Age of Reason, where I was
Yeah.
kind of looking into all the five elements, because I think these five fundamental elements which actually builds our world or builds our universe, for us to, the building of our
Can you
living
name the
environment.
five elements? I think.
So it's water, air, earth, fire, and ether. So ether is generally not considered in the Chinese philosophy, but I think in Hindu philosophy we consider all the five elements, and ether is one of the most important element, where which is also called Brahman. So whatever you throw in the space, it comes back. So, even the words comes back, even the thoughts come back. So it's basically energy, I'll say, in the present day language. So it's ether is a very, very important element. But this, the work you just showed, it's called combustion. Combustion is about the fire element, where I'm talking about the burning of the fossil fuels, and how we are burning the whole world. So how the climate is changing by burning the fossil fuels. So I made this clock, which is based on the Greek clock or Vedic clock. Earlier traditions, we see this water clock system. So instead of water, I use the oil, where there is the bigger bowl is filled with the oil, and there is a smaller bowl with a pinhole. So through the pinhole, the smaller bowls slowly start filling. Sorry. Once it starts filling, so it counts the number of hours. So that's the work about. And every day, I think the museum people had to change change the smaller bowl and clean it, and then put it in the oil again and again, because it was meant for 24 hours clock system. Yeah.
So now I can show it better. We close the curtain, so now you can see it better.
Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful work. Beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's also a bit like a mirror. It's reflecting the space around, right?
Yeah, I think indoor spaces behave differently with the work, and outdoor conversations are completely different. So you put it in out in the public, and conversation is totally different than the white cube spaces.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that lots of people in Germany have came to see the show, and they gave a very great feedback on the works. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's another one.
Yep. This is the element ether, which I was talking about.
Yeah.
So here I gave the form to the formless element. So basically, the ether element is a formless element. As we see, the space has no form. So I wanted to talk about the kind of negative conversations we are hearing from. So this is an interactive piece, which is kind of wall. So one side of the wall has a positive of the world map, and one side has a negative world map. So it's basically looking into all the sounds which are kind of coming from. So the work has almost 450 sounds from all part of the world. All kind of unrest situations are there, but once you start hitting on the wall, it produces sound. So there were if there are a number of people hitting on the wall at one point, so there will be many sounds mixed. So that's what I wanted, so that many sound can be mixed, because it's a cacophony of our age. So it becomes a cacophony. The history really matters for us, and history has kind of built this kind of a structure for us for living. But I think on the same time, the unrest in the world is just a cacophony we are hearing. So I think we really can have a better world. That's what I believe. That's my personal belief, that we really can have a better world. But I think the difference of opinion is kind of creating such an unrest, which sometimes is very unnecessary. It's not sometimes. I think every time it's very unnecessary. So I think that's where the work is kind of important to me, because it creates that cacophony in the space along with the other works. Yeah.
So here's another work from you.
Yeah.
Which was really very impressive.
Thank you.
Can you tell us about this?
This is a work called acceleration. And acceleration is basically the form, and the whole graphic is being taken from different graphs of consumption and production from 2000 to 2016. So it's based on Will Stefan's great acceleration graph, where they're talking about that we have already entered into the Anthropocene. So he made these graphs based on consumption and production and what kind of greenhouse gases, pollution levels, and population levels. So there are different kind of structures. So there were all 24 the graph maps he made. And so
Yeah.
I combined all the graph maps and made this, kind of graffiti or graphic for my work, where I use the element gungru, which is basically the little bells which we use in our ankles. So, I use that material quite often in my work, which is used as a kind of construction, deconstruction, and reconstruction within my
Yeah.
work, because the process is really important for me to use this material, because once the work is ready, it becomes one material and one ready work, a ready object. But within the process, because I draw on the base, which is a
Yeah.
fabric, and then I have people of the community of people working with me, who actually start sewing on it. So, each ghungru is sewn on the surface. So, these people actually change lot within the work, because, then it becomes a reconstruction. So, my construction, and then they deconstruct my construction, and it becomes a different surface altogether. So that's what I was thinking about this whole graphic, which is basically the graph of different consumptions and productions. And so, because I think it's the constructed by us, but deconstructed the whole environment. And we are getting into a new reconstruction, which we are totally unaware. So, the environments are totally unaware. So that's what the work is about. Yeah.
And working on this piece, sewing the little bells, you employ female assistants and helpers, right?
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I have my studio in one of the urban villages, as they call it in Delhi. So, it's a little cluster which was a green patch of land, but overnight there were construction happened because government was acquiring that green land. So people just overnight built on that. So it's an illegal colony kind of a thing, illegal construction. But I have a studio there, so there are very small communities. So small community people, the women I have, they just came to help me in the beginning. So they are there with me from last 10 years, 10 or 11 years now. So they just came just to help me for a day or two. But then they really liked the work, and I said, if you want to work with me, I'm more than happy. So there was one point I had 16 women working in my studio, and I actually ask them, okay, no, please, I cannot pay that many people, so let's make it half. But they said, we don't want any money. So I was like, no, 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 I have to pay. If you're
Yeah.
working,
Yeah.
you have to get paid. So that's how the community works. If you have
Yeah.
a studio in smaller community, people are very generous, and people really want to work with you, want to experience things, and their husband also allowed. So it's a very patriarchal society on one side. So their husbands also allowed them to work with me. So I think they're also happy. I'm very happy that they are working with me, and I'm really really thankful to have that kind of
Yeah.
staff with
Yeah.
me. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in a country like Germany, when you count a female artist on an art fair or in a museum exhibition, it's still the minority by far. It's usually around 20% or so. And
Wow.
how, I mean, in a city like New Delhi, how is the female art scene? Do you have a network? Do you have contacts? Is there still a very dense small community fighting for the future, or is it is
It's a
there a
very
normal
small.
side being a female artist in Delhi?
It's a very small and very new scene of art in India. There is a very small community of women artists, but now I think I see more and more women artists doing better work. And I'm really glad that I'm part of this time, because right now that's my perspective again. Many male artists will be offended by that, but I think many great works are coming out of female artists. We have Nalini Malani, Nilima Sheikh, all the 6 artists from the show. They are brilliant. We have Shilpa Gupta. I mean, there are brilliant women artists who are doing wonderful work internationally right now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think this is a great time for India. In art scene for women. And women artists are making much more promising work, and less market driven, I'll say, works. So which is another great factor, because it's more political, more provocative, and so I think I really appreciate this time, and I'm really glad to be part of it. But yeah, the scene is very small, and most of the art scene is being run by the galleries. Uh, and we don't have foundations and other collectors or other kind of institution which can help artists. So that's very sad, because everybody has a one means of finances, which is galleries. And galleries, because it's a business, so they have to do business in a different sense, and sometimes foundations need to support artists in a very different way, just to
Yeah.
see that how something which is maybe financially not viable but very important voices. So that's, I think, is a little sad state on this part of the world for art, but otherwise the art scene is very, very small, I'll say. And the gallery scene is kind of, you know it better.
Yeah,
So that
galleries. But we have to educate the collectors that they buy as well works that are maybe not so easy to understand and that have another
that's
level.
right.
That's the point. Huh? That's a little bit the
That's
point.
right. I think lots of our galleries are also trying
Yeah,
that. And
yeah.
but we have kind of, you can count the galleries on your hand, so on your one hand. So we have
Yeah,
only
yeah,
this many gallery in all over India. So
yeah, yeah.
so you can imagine the scene is very, very small, but I think there are lots of brilliant artists around, and lots of younger artists are doing fantastic work. I
Yeah,
must say
yeah.
that the education system has changed quite a lot. There are 2, 3 new universities which have come, and they are, the education system is changing day by day, and they are having a lot of visiting artists. So earlier in our times there was very less interaction with the living artists or practicing artists. And our education model is also very Western. So because
Yeah.
that's the seed sown by the colonizers. So so we have studied in the very colonized model of education. So I think now there are a lot of opportunities, because there are a lot of scholarships to go outside, and people are studying outside. So youngsters have better opportunity than our times. And so I think I see Indian art is kind of on an international level. So it really is not like coming from the eastern side or something like that. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
That's it.
we are doing a very international work, and a lot of artists are bringing great issues in their work and great voices. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and you have these global issues and environmental questions, but also you use materials which come from traditional culture. So you build a bridge between what's really recognizable from coming from ancient India and bringing it on this contemporary art
Yeah,
context.
so very well said, actually, very well put together, because I think I come from, my education system was to kind of make things. So, I used to play with the material rather than only concepts. So, it's later that you unlearn those things, and then you learn new things in your work. Um, but I think within my work, I really like to bring the craft of the local. So wherever I go, I like to work with material. I don't know how the material will transform into my work, but I just go and wander around the place wherever I go. So I just want to play with the material, because material speaks itself. And so, the
Absolutely.
poet, it brings the poetics of the work, and it really excites me to see
Yeah,
the
yeah,
material when I see something which is kind of resonating with my thought, or
yeah.
it can convey my thoughts to the viewer. So I think it's wonderful that I mean, or I feel very lucky that I can sense a lot of materials,
Yeah,
and I can play with them.
yeah,
So yeah,
And
yeah.
it's a way of to identify. So like the women that help you or work for you, they know the material you use. So it's also a connection.
Yeah, yeah, this is a wonderful connection, you know. But the first time they were making the work, it was a wonderful story that once we were making the work, so you know, they were like, "Why you are sewing it? This is like not making any sound or anything because you know that's the process." I wanted to mutate the sound of the gunguru. So I didn't say much, and I was like, "This is a very good question. How to answer this to them? You know, because I can't give them a philosophical answer. So how to kind of relate it to them?" I said, "You finish it, then I'll talk to you about it. Then we'll hang the work, and you know, once we finish the work, you had to see the smile on their faces first. You know, they were like in a awe that they have made this."
yeah,
And it was such a wonderful moment for me to see them that, oh my God, you know,
yeah, engaging
there's
with it.
nothing better than this in my
So
life.
there was no need to explain anymore. It was obvious for them, or they could
It
feel
was
it.
very obvious for
Yeah,
them.
great.
And they said, okay, now we understand why you don't want any sound.
Yeah,
So yeah, then I started slowly explaining them about my work, and slowly we have started bringing changes in the studio where we were going more sustainable and more sustainable with materials. So no plastic was allowed. That was the concept which was the hardest to teach them. You know, everybody brings the polythene in the
yeah,
studio with their stuff. So, and I'm
yeah,
like, you are banned to bring this plastic in my studio.
Yeah,
So, you know,
and
so certain thing you have to kind of teach them so that they can go back to the communities and they can bring the changes there.
but in
So,
fact, that's a bit like how we work in the gallery. If a visitor comes or a collector who encounters some work for the first time and doesn't understand immediately, we cannot fill them up with the whole art history before to make them understand, but really to give them the opportunity to make a personal experience, and that's what happens in
that's
your
right.
studio.
I think that's how we need to kind of educate people into
Yeah,
contemporary art also. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
take them on
absolutely.
the journey. Yeah.
That's right.
But let's come back to Uta. I think it's so amazing because if you think back or if you think of today, you know, this project could not be possible in these times, no? Because she was traveling so often to India and she
Yeah.
visited you and the other artists, and it's really something that she was able to do at that time. And now we have this beautiful exhibition and this beautiful catalog, and it's possible as well to see at the Kunstmuseum Wolfsburg on the website. They have a lot of videos, and there is as well a video about you. So I just show this quickly. So
Okay.
facing India, where you are explaining. Can you see it?
Okay. No,
And I
not
think,
yet.
yeah, you should see it. It's great. So I just had a look at it yesterday, and it's
Yeah, yeah, I'll see
fantastic.
it. Yeah.
And Vibha, I would like to ask you. You mentioned a lot of names to us. So except the 6 artists that were in this exhibition, maybe you can type them to us, and then
Sure.
we can publish it on our Instagram account, because I think for us here in Germany, it's really a lot to discover, and it's really fantastic to speak with you
Sure, I'll send you that. I'll
to
send you
make this
poster.
larger. Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah,
I will. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And yeah, I think you're very right about Uta's project because right now there is a show going on in Leipzig where I
yeah.
was supposed to do a community-based project, Black
Okay.
Cloud, with people. So we were bringing the people of the community on 27th. We were supposed to bring them together on 27th of March. But before that, only the lockdown happened. And on 10th of
Yeah,
March only, I told them that I don't think so it's possible that I come. Because
yeah,
if
yeah,
I come also, and Germany is fine, but if I come back to India, they're going to quarantine me. And those quarantine centers, I don't want to stay in.
yeah, yeah,
So I think, so, you know, exhibiting works is going to be more difficult, I think, in the future, for some time at least. And
yeah,
I don't know how long it's going to go on, how
yeah,
we can bring back ourselves to that pre-COVID days normal,
yeah.
or this, or we have to adapt this new normal. Yeah.
we have to deal with this new normal, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, at least until they found the vaccine, I think so. And here in Germany, everything is more or less open now, but there are already the first locations where a lot of COVID-19 is happening at the moment. So I think that maybe we will get another wave, and
Oh,
so we don't know what is going on here. So nobody knows what is going on.
yeah, yeah. It's very unpredictable times. Yeah.
Exactly. I think that at the moment we just have to live with it, and I think we are trying to do a lot, to be active and to do a lot of communications with artists and with other people. So it was really great speaking to you. We are already 1 hour.
Oh, okay.
So time
Yeah,
passed by, and
yeah.
with 60 minutes, Instagram is saying stop. So,
Okay,
so it
okay.
was
But
really
great
fantastic
talking to you.
speaking to you. And yeah, let's keep in contact. And
Sure,
maybe we can do in a couple of weeks. We can speak again and to see what
sure.
is
And
about
take care.
the
Take
vaccine.
care.
You too.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
so much,
Thanks.
Shita.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye,
Bye bye. Bye
Katya.
bye. Bye, Vibha. Bye.